Hey everyone, here is our quick Bqool tutorial where we'll run through setting up your default rule as well as just showing basic uses of how to do a reprice. So quick pitch of why you should be using Bqool. We think it's the best bang for your buck tool we use, so it's only $25 a month, and every single thing you currently have for sale, it will automatically communicate with Amazon, and depending on your repricing settings, reprice every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes, every single different thing you're selling will be in buy box contention all the time. So instead of you having to just manually go through your inventory and look at every listing and see how other people are pricing, this allows you to basically every morning and every night just scan through, see what's priced and what's not, and in 10, 15 minutes you can have the app do the work of hours of time of you just checking on the hour, making sure you're not getting undercut by a penny on anyone. It's the most useful tool we have and also the cheapest. So anyone that's doing any kind of volume, it's pretty much the first thing you should spend money on. So let's just go immediately into our rule. So click repricing rules. Bqool comes with two generic rules that are both terrible: to get buy box, maximize profit rule. Never use these. Not going to go into why, but each one of them, for their own reasons, is not optimal. So you'll want to click add a new rule. I'm just going to click my rule that already exists. And we'll just go through this quickly. You may want to just pause the video and just kind of exactly match what's already here, but I'll just run through quickly to explain a little bit about what each is. Just like name your rule something that will be different enough from the other two so you don't have to think about which one it is when you select it later in a drop-down box. Rule description you can leave blank. So buy box settings, when we're in buy box, we want to disable buy box settings. Not really going to get into this, but basically if you're in the buy box and someone undercuts you, you could price match down to match, but if you're in the buy box already, you're not going to lose a sale by that, so we prefer to keep our higher price while in the buy box. So disable buy box settings and just click check FBA. Next section, the repricing settings. So when you're not in the buy box or disabled buy box settings up there, we want to match lowest price. So compete with match lowest price, and we only want to check the FBA box. We don't care about FBM because we're not competing with them. People buy FBA specifically for the perks of 2-day shipping, etc. And all we care about is FBA pricing. And you should not be selling shoes Amazon is selling most of the time because they'll usually hog the buy box. And even if you undercut them, sometimes they'll just still keep the buy box hogged. So we're going to uncheck that. If Amazon does start selling a shoe, you either kind of have to get rid of it quickly or just wait Amazon out. So here's the most important part of the rule. So this is a competition and how the rule acts when other people are in between your minimum and maximum set price. So when a competitor is above min price, which means if I got my min set at 50, if the next person's at 52, the price will match the 52. So you want to match competitor's price and then do the minus $0. So this would mean that we're basically just price matching the lowest FBA price within the min max we decided on. So this means you're not going to be undercutting the other lowest seller, but most other sellers have repricing software. So if you did choose to undercut them, they would most likely just either price match you or undercut you in return, and it would just end up being a negative, like downward spiral where no one's making any money. So competitor's price minus $0. When competitor's below min price, use auto compete. This basically means that if my min's 60, someone comes in down to 55, I could either make my min 54, but most likely I'd keep my min at 60, and then the rule would set my price to the lowest FBA price within the min max. So that's what we want to do for that. And then when competitor price equals min price, just use min price. all that means is that if my min's 60 and the lowest is at 62 or price match is 62, if someone comes down and prices at exactly 60, I will still match them at that very bottom penny price. So we'll use that. You can click save. I'm going to click cancel because I already have my rule. And now we'll go to the listings. And this is going a little bit slow, so it may take a little bit of time to load. But so by default, this brings up every single listing you've ever created, which for me is a lot. And so generally what I like to do is sort by my active SKUs, which essentially just filters out everything that I have sold before but I don't have or incoming. So it's only everything that you're currently selling right now. So if you go here, you can go to status, active, and hit search, and it will see you'll drop from 7,000 something to 757. Okay, I don't know if it's done loading, but I'll just keep going. So by default, Bqool usually sorts by highest to lowest quantity, which is useful, but the most useful thing is actually to sort by date, newest to oldest, which this is still loading, so it's not clickable yet. But so basically you want to be checking what's coming in like the soonest because you may end up getting something shipped in that's not repriced. You want to get to that as soon as possible instead of just sorting by the highest number. So, okay, so I can click this. So now see 9/17/18, that's like 6 months old. But okay, so it resorted to February 20th, 2019. So this is the most recently created SKU in my inventory that's currently being sold. So I'll just scroll down. Basically, here's the cost, what you pay. I don't use it, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Here would be my minimum price, maximum price. Okay, this is still loading. Sorry, guys, this using Microsoft Edge is not optimal, and I don't recommend it. But I'm going to scroll down to a different shoe. Here we go. So this is something we bought last Friends and Family. So you can see I got created on 225. So the main thing you can do is if you want to know which shoe this is, right now you can't tell, you have to hover to see that it's the 11.5. So if I know it's 11.5, I can click on this and it will take me to the actual listing right here. So let me go to 11.5 real quick. All right. So you can see the current buy box is 81.48, and there's one left. I'm right here for some reason. I guess my old price is still in. This is kind of just I unreprice this just to show an example of how to do it. But so for example, you can put your cost in. I generally don't do this anymore because what ends up happening is you'll buy the shoe for one price, say $60 this weekend, and then in 5 months it might come back around at 50, and you will most likely eventually start forgetting to update the price to the new lower price. And then when you're doing your math on how much money you can make depending on the price, if you're using the old higher price, it ends up making it look like you don't make money when really you do. You'd think it wouldn't happen, but it happens a fair amount. So a good solution is to just temporarily put it in. So for example, if I say I paid 40, all right, this is taking a little while. Okay. Okay. Wow, that was bad. Okay, so if I want to go 40 here, we did just look at it. It's currently selling for 81. So I would want my min price to be below that most likely. So I generally like to put my min probably a couple dollars below just so I don't have to constantly be repricing. So like in the future, when you see these green checks, it means that like this listing is in competition and you actually don't really have to look at it ever again. Occasionally it's good to review them because if you're at like a max price that's too high, you may want to lower it if it's taking too long to move the shoe. So for example, I'll just say it's selling for 81. I'm assuming I want to compete with that. I would probably set to 79. Gives me a couple dollars of leeway. There will always be someone that comes in at 80, 99. So if you have your min set at 81, it just is more work. I generally, a couple dollars is usually like sufficient. So also, um, if you put this cost in, you can hit this little thing and it will calculate your profit. So sell price 79, buy price 40, referral fees, FBA fulfillment fees, profit 18 bucks, ROI 47. That's amazing. Obviously, I paid more than this. That's astronomically low. But so min price, I like to keep it pretty close to the current minimum FBA price. Max price, I like to go a little higher than I would normally pay, but nothing crazy. If you go too high, if you become the only FBA seller, it'll just skyrocket you up so high that no one will ever pay for your shoes. So I'm going to set my max just to 129, which if I wanted to check profits at that, it would be insanely lucrative. You might choose 119, 124, whatever, and then I'd be going to the match price. You can see the other two rules here. This is our custom rule we want to use all the time. So hit that. You can see I sent in at $98, but obviously 81's under than that. The price fell, so this is why repricing is good, because this will happen fairly frequently. So being able to have the app reprice for you every 15 minutes saves boatloads of time and keeps you competitive. So then you just want to go save, and it's now a play button, repricing enabled. That's about it. There are a couple nuances to it that I'm sure we'll end up talking about later. Most likely, the main one would be, for example, sometimes you'll have a situation where there's only one person at the low price, and you could basically bump your min up. Let's see if we can find an example of that. All right. Okay. Oh, really expensive. Size 9 though. All right, so generally for this listing, there's plenty of people selling it all around the same price, so this wouldn't be a good example. But just for instance, if there was only one person at 81 and then the second person was at 85, it could be worth your time to set your min to actually 84 and just wait for this one low person to sell through. Obviously, in this scenario, there's enough people where you probably just want to match and let it move through. But you can usually actually generally tell how many units a person has once I load this up. Okay. So you can see eFinders literally has one left. So if they were the only seller at 81 with one left, I would generally set my min above it, let them sell through one unit, and then be in buy box contention in a couple days. So that is generally how everything works. If you do use Bqool, which we highly recommend, optimally be checking it every morning and every night and making sure you're in buy box contention for everything all the time. The more often you do it, the less you have to do, because more stuffs will be in contention all the time. So the more you do it, the less work it is each time. The less you do it,